Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Let us continue with our tafsir of Surah Aal-Imraan bihawlillahi wa quwwati, and we are on ayah number 13. قال الله تعالى قد كان لكم آية في فئتين التقتا فئة تقاتل في سبيل الله وأخرى كافرة يرونهم مثليهم رأي العين والله يؤيد بنصره من يشاء إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار. So he's saying قد كان لكم, there has been, this is the perfect tense, there has been for you a sign. Been for whom exactly? Whom is he speaking about? It could be interpreted both ways. For you as in for you Muslims, but it could also be interpreted for you as in all you kuffar. Both interpretations are valid, and that is fine. Ayatun, this means sign. في فئتين التقتا. Fi'atain is the double of fi'ah, meaning a group, so two groups. التقتا, they met. The alif al-ithnain at the end because the verb is denoting two people or two groups doing the verb. One fi'ah, one group, or really we can say army, is fighting fi sabilillah, for the sake of Allah. That is to say, to make the word of Allah the highest. And the other, kafira. It's interesting how he describes it. He says one group fighting in the way of Allah. This is a noble description. And the other group, he does not say they're fighting in the way of their taghut or the way of their God or whatever else. He just calls them kafira. And that is the worst description anyone can ever have. Just as the best description any human can ever have is abd of Allah, the slave of Allah, the worst description anyone can ever be described with is a kafir. You cannot get a worse description than that. He says they saw them twice the number, ra'i al-ayn, with their eyes. Ayn means eyes, and ra'i means vision or seeing, from the verb ra'a yara, ra'yan. So again, we ask the question, what is this actually referring to? Well, first of all, this ayah is referring to the Battle of Badr. In the Battle of Badr, the number of Muslimun was just over 300. They say 313. And the number of the kuffar from the Quraysh was about 1,000. So this ayah could mean that the mushrikun saw the Muslimun twice as large as the mushrikun, so that the mushrikun saw the Muslimun as 2,000. That is 2 times 1,000. 1,000 being the number of the Quraysh. It could also mean that the kuffar of the Quraysh saw the Muslimun as about 600, because they were about 300, so double that to around 600. This is also a possible interpretation. So we need to know that this ayah would appear to contradict ayah 44 of Surah Al-Anfal, which also speaks much about the Battle of Badr. That ayah says that the mushrikun saw the Muslimin as a small number, and the Muslimun saw the mushrikeen as a small number as well. So how do we make sense of this? We make sense of this by saying that before the two groups met in battle, so they were a distance away and they could see each other, they had a visual on each other, they saw each other as small. Why would that be? This is the plan of Allah Jalla wa Ala, because if each party sees each other as small in number, then that encourages them to fight. And this was the whole idea, that they come and fight. However, after they met, the mushrikun saw the Muslimin as double the actual number. So this could either mean 2,000 or 600 as discussed before. And the reason for that would be to drive some fear into the hearts of the mushrikeen. There is a narration from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who at the Battle of Badr said to the man besides him, "Do you see them as 70? And his companion by his side said, "I see them as 100. It is only afterwards they realized, when they took in the prisoners, that the mushrikun were 1,000. So the point is, this is all a strategy of Allah Jalla wa Ala to get them to fight. And so only then will the mushrikeen suffer a humiliating loss. He says, Wallahu yu'ayyidu. Ayyada yu'ayyidu ta'yidan sounds like the English word to aid someone. بِنَصْرِهِ, with his help. So Nasr is a help which leads to victory. مَنْ يَشَاءُ, whomsoever he wills. Indeed, in this there is an ibrah, an admonition. or a lesson to be learnt for a people of Absar. Absar is the plural of Basar, which means vision. So visions here. In this context, it refers to people of understanding and knowledge, because it is only such people who will take admonition. As for the ignoramuses and those who are heedless of these matters, then all of this is just words in through one ear, out through the other. So reflecting on this ayah, we take an interesting lesson that half the battle is won and lost in the mind before even a sword is raised. And this is the plan of Allah Jalla wa Ala, in that He encouraged both parties to meet each other, and He did so by making the opposition look small in the eyes, so as to encourage the army to go forth and vanquish this small opposition. This is all in the mind. Of course, we know pretty much what the numbers were, but it tells us how powerful the mind is, even in a physical battle. We also learn that the victory does not depend on your number nor your military ability, but rather it depends ultimately to whom Allah Jalla wa Ala grants victory. And if we want Allah Jalla wa Ala to grant us victory, then it is as He says, وَلَيَنْصُرَنَّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَقَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Allah will help those who help His cause. Indeed, Allah is the powerful, the mighty. Those whom, when we give them authority in the land, they establish the salah, they give the zakah, they enjoin the good, they forbid the evil, and to Allah belongs the final judgment of all matters. We also find that there can be no unity between the kuffar and the Muslimin, because look how He describes the two people. He says the fi'atain, the two groups, as if to give you an idea that there is a definitive separation between the Muslim and the Kafir. So anyone who tries to unite these people, the two groups, it's like trying to unite oil and water, or maybe fire and water. It simply does not work. Sure, there can be times of peace, that is obvious, but what we are talking about is ideological unity. And we also find the virtue of the people of sound understanding and knowledge, in that these types of people take admonition from the signs of Allah Jalla wa Ala. As for people who do not have the understanding and proper knowledge, then they will remain oblivious even if the signs of Allah are staring at them in the face. Ayah number 14. زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبُّ الشَّهَوَاتِ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ وَالْبَنِينَ وَالْقَنَاطِيرِ الْمُقَنطَرَةِ مِنَ الذَّهَبِ وَالْفِضَّةِ وَالْخَيْلِ الْمُسَوَّمَةِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ وَالْحَرْثِ ذَلِكَ مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَاللَّهُ عِنْدَهُ حُسْنُ الْمَآبِ. So he says زُيِّنَ, from zayyana, yuzayyinu, tazyinan, to adorn. So adorned for nas, for people, is the hub, which is the love of shahawat, of desires, of various things, and he makes mention of some of those. Min al-nisa, from women, and banin, this is children. Wal-qanatir al-muqantara. The verb at the center of this is qantara, yuqantiru, which means to possess a huge fortune. Qintar is a fortune, and qanatir is the plural of that word, so huge fortunes. Al-muqantara would mean possessed, but possessed as in possessed a large fortune. So it reads a huge number of fortunes which are possessed from gold. This is dhahab. It comes from the verb dhahaba yadhhabu, to go, because this gold, it takes your senses away. People are completely infatuated by gold. Wal-fidda, this is silver. Wal-khayl al-musawwama. Khayl is a collective noun meaning horses. Al-musawwama meaning branded. The word khayl comes from ikhtiyal, which means to be self-conceited, because the one who rides a horse is on an animal which is a gracious animal, and it can produce self-conceit in such a rider, as opposed to somebody who rides a donkey. nobody will feel proud of themselves riding a donkey, because a donkey is a lowly type of animal. Now, the word al-musawwama, which is the adjective of the word khayl, could mean two things. Firstly, it could come from the word sa'ima, which means grazing, which is when the livestock graze the fields. So it would be grazing horses. It could also come from the word sima, which means a mark, so marked horses. But then what is this mark? Some said it is branded with fire, which is cauterization. Some have said it refers to the white mark on the head and the feet. So it could take both of these meanings. Wal-An'am, these are the particular animals from the camel, cow, and sheep families. Wal-Harth, this is the tilled land, so the land which is ready and prepped for sowing the seeds. Of course, agriculture was a big business in those times. But he says that all of this is a mata' of this near life, dunya meaning near or lowly, hayat, life. Mata' meaning provision, but provision which will fade away. So a quick provision, not a lengthy, long-lasting provision, just a quick provision or a quick enjoyment. Wallahu indahu, and with Allah is the husnul ma'ab. Husn meaning good or goodly. Ma'ab from the verb aba, ya'ubu, awban meaning return. So ma'ab is a place of return, the goodly place of return, referring to Jannah. So reflecting on this ayah, we take that Allah Jalla wa Ala tests people with all sorts of different desires. And this has to be in place because we have to sort out the worthy from the unworthy. So who is going to give Allah the precedence over and above his own natural desires, which Allah himself has placed in man? One might ask, are these items mentioned in this ayah haram then? The answer is no. They are all halal in and of themselves, but they become a fitna for you if they block you off from pursuing your purpose of life, which is to worship Allah Jalla wa Ala. So that if your pursuit in life becomes these particular matters of desire in this ayah, then that is when you are misguided. And this is the exact problem we see with the kuffar. They are pursuing these matters of desire, and it becomes the purpose of their life. It becomes the reason why they get up in the morning. Whereas these matters mentioned in the ayah, they should be in place to help you achieve the purpose of your life, which is to worship Allah Jalla wa Ala and to give thanks to Him. We can also take that when Allah Jalla wa Ala says Al-Qanatir al-Muqantara, much wealth which is possessed and hoarded up, we could take that the more wealth you have, the more the love for your wealth increases, and so therefore the more the fitna will increase. So you would often find the stingiest of people are the richest. We also find in this ayah that Allah encourages us to make our pursuit the home of the hereafter. This is what we have our hearts attached to, not to the pleasures of this world. Ayah number 15. قُلْ أَأُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَأَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Say, should I not inform you? The verb is نَبَّأَ يُنَبِّئُ تَنْبِئَةً, to give the naba or the news. Should I not inform you بِخَيْرٍ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ, of that which is better than that, meaning all those desires mentioned in the last ayah. لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا, for those who have taqwa. We spoke about the word taqwa before. عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, with their Rabb. So you notice the value of the gift is dependent on the value of the giver. So this gift is عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ, with their Rabb. You cannot get something more valuable and more prestigious than Allah Jalla wa Ala himself. Therefore his gift is of the utmost value. So what is this thing with Allah? Jannat. This means gardens. It's a plural. We have spoken about the word Jannah before. Tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. We have spoken about this before. When it says taht, under, it does not mean under Jannah. That would not make sense. It means running on the ground. Is the anhar, plural of nahar, meaning river. So rivers running on the ground. Khalidina fiha, forever therein. Wa azwaj, meaning wives. Zawj means wife. Zawj can also mean husband, but in this case it means wives, because it says mutahhara, purified. So what are they purified from? From impure things, such as menstrual blood and other impurities. And also all types of dirt and things that could make you averse to your wife. So they will be purified from all impurities and dirt and that type of thing. Not just physical dirt, but also spiritual dirt, so that they will have the perfect of character. Wives nowadays could have certain aspects of character that you may hate. But in Jannah, this will not be the case, because it would be a perfect marriage, as it would be a perfect life. And Ridwan from Allah, Ridwan meaning contentment or pleasure from Allah. So this is to say that in Jannah, Allah will never be angry or dissatisfied with the inhabitants of Jannah. In this world, we could do things which make Allah angry and dissatisfied, but this would not be the case in Jannah. Reflecting on this ayah, we notice that Allah starts this ayah off with a question. What would that be? Well, firstly, when you ask a question, it excites the interest. And this is a good teaching technique. We find it much in ahadith as well. Secondly, what's coming up, meaning the news coming up, is an important news. So it is prefaced with a question form, as if to say, get ready for this. We learn the obvious lesson that the pleasures of Jannah are better than the pleasures of this world. And because of that, our purpose and pursuit in life needs to be directed to Jannah and whatever will get us into Jannah. We find he says, لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا, for those who have taqwa, which means Jannah is for the people of taqwa. So our aim needs to be to acquire taqwa in this world for every day of our life. We find in Jannah people are going to be married, so there will be no bachelors. We find that from this ayah, but also there's a more clear-cut hadith which tells us that no one in Jannah will be unmarried. We also take from this ayah that Allah sees all His servants, Muslim, Kafir, everybody. And like we've said before, it does not just mean He sees, but rather will take them to account, good for good, evil for evil. هذا والله أعلم.